Hello, my name is Matilda Furness. I'm Matilda the Book Dragon, and this is the first time I do a film about books. And I really like to call myself a book dragon because I think it's a much nicer word than bookworm, because I'm a hoarder of books. I gobble up books. And this first time I want to do a quite short film just to get used to this and talk about the 3 books I love most, 2023. And the first one is actually also the first one I read in 2023, and that is Snow Child by Iwin Ivey. And this is a beautiful story set in Alaska in the 1920s. And it's about a couple called Jack and Mabel who moves there to have a fresh start. It's a very sad, gripping story about how they lost a child and haven't never been able to get a new child. And it's a very sad, gripping story, and it's very different for them, of course, to be in this cold land. And but one night when they're actually having a good time, they build a snow girl, and the next morning she is gone. So it's the magical realism. It's a mystery, but this girl is gone, but she comes back later, and it's just so beautiful. This descriptions of Alaska, of the snow, of the big forest, and also you really feel for this couple. You really feel for Mabel and Jack. You get to know from both their sides and from the snow girl's side. Yeah, it's kind of a love story, but mostly it's about the grief of a child and trying to live in a new place and survive there. Yeah, so read it, The Snow Child, if you haven't read it, do. And the second book that I read, that I really love, top 3, is The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. And I think I read this in February or something like that. It's a young woman called Esme, and how she grows up in Oxford with her dad, and he works with making the very first Oxford English dictionary. And you get to follow her at his workplace. She kind of grows up under his where he sits and work. And he sometimes drops a word and she reads them, and sometimes she takes them, and especially if they're words they're not using, because the older she gets, you get to follow her from when she's a child till she's grown up. The older she gets, she realizes there are words they don't really care about, and she makes her own dictionary. So this is really a book about feminism, but also the relationship between her and her father. And it's such a beautiful book about the relationship. It's so lovely, and also a very sad book, I must say. It's not an easy book, but this love for words, and she's so curious. She really wants to learn all these words that we don't see in a dictionary. So she gets to meet all these women who lives in the lower class, who works because she lives in the upper class. And and also about the time when she goes away from school and she doesn't like it there, of course. And when she's grown up, love, sad things. It is a sad book, but it's so beautiful. So if you like reading and crying and have words, read The Dictionary of Lost Words. And I'm really looking forward to read her next book, which I've got. I don't have the name in my head, but I'll tell you that another time. And the third book I want to talk about and also one of the last books I read this year, is the book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. And this is fantasy. it's also about books. Books and stories. So all these 3 books is really about books and stories, can you say? Maybe the first book is about books. Anyway, this is fantasy. This is set in a totally different world, and it's about Livira and Evar. And Evar lives in this magical library because he and his siblings, they're not really siblings, but they're grown up in this library and they can't leave. And Livira lives out in the desert. But it's just quite a short while we get to see the desert because she gets kind of kidnapped and then saved and gets to the city where they have this huge magical library, and she gets to work there. So we follow her more, I would say, than ever, and we get to see her grow up. And it's so interesting, this book. I don't want to tell you too much because you kind of get to know when you read what's this about, really. You don't get like a big strict descriptions in the beginning of this is how it works. It's more like a mystery. And there are magical beings in this library. There's a bird called Edgar Allan. So it's a lot of yeah, what do you say? I don't find the word in English, but every chapter starts with something from another book, but they're like made up sayings, and the authors' names are mixed up, but you recognize the names and you recognize some reference in the book. It was like, but it's from Narnia. So yeah, read it. It's quite sad story, I would say, and it's kind of dark, but it's not too dark. And there's a second book coming out in the spring, so I'm very excited to read that. So that is the 3 books I love most 2023. The Book That Wouldn't Burn, The Victory of Lost Words, and Snow Child. Thank you!